Thank you so much. You didn't mention how long that you want me to speak. So I'll just take free rein. I'll take the clue that you guys are done listening to me when you just get up and just start walking out of the room. I was just kind of describing a little bit of my journey. I grew up in Ohio. I moved to Florida in the early 90s to take a job in Jacksonville. I took a teaching position. Didn't really know anybody in Florida when I moved there. I spent 10 years teaching. There's a part of me by training and by disposition that has always remained a teacher. Right? There's something in me that inclines toward the ministry of teaching. So I'll try not to be too pedantic about my remarks tonight. The call to priesthood came to me after those 10 years and came really as the result of a powerful encounter with the love of Christ. Caritas Christi urgit nos, right, says St. Paul. The love of Christ, the charity of Christ, the love that is within the heart of Christ is what drives us on and impels us, in everything that we do for Him, everything that makes us really, truly human, makes us really the men that we were created to be. And the love of Christ impelled me to sell my house and my car, give away my dog and everything that I had, and go off to Rome to do my theology studies. And I remember the day that I walked into the chapel at the North American College in Rome. We got off the bus from Fiumicino and we walk up the steps. You only ever walked up or down those steps twice in your time there. When you came in the first time and when they clapped you out at the end of your studies there and sent you home as a priest. But up we went and into the chapel, and it's midday prayer, and the rector says, "Welcome to your home for the next 2 years. You won't be going home." And I was shocked by that, right? I didn't know that I wouldn't be able to come home for the summer. And then he said something to me that sort of stuck with me ever since then. He said, "Men, I want you to think about this. Like, you have left behind all that is familiar to you. Your family is on the other side of an ocean from you, right? And you've come off to a new city, a very old city, but new to you. And you're about to study, some of you, in a language that you've never studied before." That was me. I didn't know any Italian. I hadn't studied any Italian before I went over there, right? And somebody might say of you, what are you thinking? Like, what kind of crazy idea is this? What could impel you to be willing to make such a radical transformation, to do this crazy thing? And he said, "You know what you tell them, men? You know what you say? You say, men who are in love will do crazy things." Amen? Yeah, okay. Now, we've probably experienced this on a lot of levels in our lives. I know I have, right? But men who are in love will do crazy things. Caritas Christi urgit nos. The love of Christ impels us sometimes to do things that the world might say, well, that's just crazy. Like spending 15 years of my adult life working with college students. What are you, crazy? Okay. What would impel you to do this? Why do you continue to live out this mission in Gainesville, among the Catholic Gators, going out there? What would make you think that you could ever accomplish this mission 10,000? You know what that means, to mission 10,000, what that means at the University of Florida? There are 10,000 Catholic students who go to the University of Florida. 10,000 people who say of themselves that they are Catholics. There are 10,000 of your sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters, right? They are people who you send off, others send off from all over the place, right? Hoping against hope that as they spend those years in Gainesville, that they will be able to hold on to the faith that has been implanted in them. And I got to tell you, I mean, the statistics, you know, the odds aren't great for the average college student who goes to the University of Florida. If you took the average across the country, right, of what happens when students leave high school, even Catholic high schools, even good Catholic high schools, even good Jesuit Catholic high schools, and go off to college, right? About 80% of them 4 years later won't say that they're Catholic anymore. Without some kind of intervention, right? Without something to catch them, a lot of them fall into this great chasm and they don't come back, okay? The illusion that we used to hold on to that somehow, well, you know, they're all going to have this experience of wandering, but they will all eventually automatically find their way back when they decide that they want to get married and settle down and have children. Well, okay, have you seen the statistics about marriages, right? You know, we don't, if we're counting on, if that's our strategy for what's bringing them back, a lot of people don't get married or don't get married in the church. So that's not realistic. A lot of these folks, when they go, they're gone, right? But Caritas Christi urgit nos, right? The love of Christ continues to impel me to go out there with this mission, to find, to form, and to launch into a lifetime of discipleship all those Catholic students. Now, the find part is tricky, right? Because they hide, right? They hide in the Greek houses, and they hide in the midtown bars, and they hide in in the library, and they hide in their studies. And increasingly, we find that this is, I think, a kind of post-COVID thing. Increasingly, it's hard to pull them out again into social interaction, right? It's like some folks have gotten entirely too comfortable with the idea that everything can just be mediated through a screen, and that why should we bother to ever go out and interact with people face to face, person to person, right? And so the finding has become a little bit more challenging in these recent years, but always we rely on a network of really strong, pure student leaders to go out there and to find them, because as one shepherd, there's no way I would find all those sheep. I need a lot of sheepdogs, and the sheepdogs can get into places where I cannot, to find those 10,000 Catholics who are out there. Okay? The next thing, of course, is to form them up, right? So once we draw them in, we want to form them up in lives of Christian discipleship, which means some knowledge about the faith. Okay, it means a deepening of their spiritual lives. It also means some skills building, both practical and evangelical, right? So we try to train them in certain practical things. Like I've been very pleased that a lot of the work that we've done in fixing up our student center, the chapel that we put in, the Adoration Chapel, we did a lot of that work with our own hands. Building things, making things, doing things, in a world where everything is becoming increasingly digitized. To give young men the opportunity to do something with their hands, to work with the real, I think is important. And is an important corrective to the kind of fuzziness that we sometimes see in terms of people's ability to interact with the real world. So there's the practical skills aspect of it. But then, it's how do you go out and share the good news with others? And that's a big part of our formation as well. How can you hand on the gift that has been handed on first to you? And then the launch, right? This is the the ongoing challenge of being in a situation like mine, the pastor of a university parish, the director of a campus ministry program. We find them, however long that takes. We form them up. We get them, we help them to find their vocations in life, right? More than 50 of our Catholic Gators have gone on to seminary or religious formation after they've graduated from UF. But like hundreds of marriages. I had 8 weddings just myself over this past summer of Catholic Gator couples, and I've got like plenty more that are already in the pipeline. They're finding that's an important milestone in their lives, right? To figure out, what am I doing with my life? But then we launch them out into the world. And I've made this comparison before. It's like sort of launching ship or planes off the deck of an aircraft carrier, right? With the hope that they're going to find landing strips, right? Because if they don't, like, all that is for naught, right? If after they graduate from the University of Florida, after they graduate from Catholic Gators, and they go out and they cannot find a parish home, if they cannot find a community to be a part of that will continue to foster within them growth in the faith and living out that faith in their day-to-day living, in the world that they will inhabit, we can lose them again, right? We don't have the kind of statistics that we have about the gap between high school and college, the attrition rate in college, that for the attrition rate of people who have left college saying that they were faithful Catholics, but then didn't find a home in the communities that they landed and then leave the church there. We don't have those statistics, but I know anecdotally from the lives of some of our folks, I know the struggles. And I know, some of this. There's a lot of successes, but I know some of the crash and burn experiences as well, right? So it's with that mission driving me, urging me, with the love of Christ that is in my heart for this rising generation of young Catholics, that I came here in the first place, and that faith life cycle that you were talking about, right? That's kind of the model, that drives me. But this collaboration that we have been building up, this relationship between Catholic Gators and the ACU has just been, I guess, really kind of a burst, a shot in the arm, kind of a burst of new life and new hope for me in this ministry that I've now been doing for these 15 years, right? It's encouraging to me because on the sending end, you've sent off to me good young men like Eric Lastras, right? Who came, it's one of these guys where you just sort of see him from the early on, and you go, whoa, like where did you come from? What got into you, right? Before he ever showed up with us, and we're seeing more and more of these, especially, I got to say, props to the Jesuits, coming out of our Jesuit high schools, some really just outstanding, already well-formed young men who are showing up there in Gainesville. So on the sending side, there's the helping us to find the Catholics who are coming to Gainesville. I'm seeing these connections that are happening, and I want to see those grow, right? I want to see more of the young men that are coming to the University of Florida. I want to know better who's coming so that we can connect with them and that we can bring them in and form them up while they're there. On the formation piece, the having collaborators to work with me in sharing Ignatian spirituality. I was telling Father Sines as we were getting vested, that when I first started, it was just kind of me, like the the doing of that spiritual direction and the teaching about Ignatian spirituality, I was doing it myself, right? Because I came from a Jesuit university. That's my own spiritual tradition, and now it's just so I don't know. It's just encouraging, and like I said, it's a shot in the arm to have others who are able to be co-laborers with me in that mission of forming up, doing the spiritual formation for our young men. Then in the launch part, right? And this may be more than anything else, right? Is like really critical. How can we help them to cross over that bridge from their college experience into life after college? By connecting with communities like this one, by connecting with other ACU groups in other cities, by the mentorship that you have offered, willingly to our young men. And so I look forward to seeing the fruits of that as we continue to move forward in this partnership. And I would be greatly remiss if I didn't also say a huge thank you to the ACU for your financial support of the mission as we are living it out, right? It's wonderful for me and encouraging, and if you haven't been up to our parish in Gainesville, come and see it if you want to get a shot in the arm, of hope for the future, to see a church packed with young people, a Catholic parish where the average age is under 30. Okay? You go around the Archdiocese of Miami and tell me how many parishes you find here that have where that's the demographic in our Catholic parishes, right? There's not too many, okay, so it is in one way super encouraging, but as the pastor and administrator and the one who is responsible for the temporal goods of this parish, having a church that's full of unemployed people is a challenge, okay? And I've shared that challenge with some of you, and your response to our need has been very generous, and for that I thank you from my heart. I can only think that the explanation for the craziness of your support, this radical decision to embrace us, to give us your time, to give of your resources, it's probably motivated by the same thing, love. The love of Christ urges us on, and it's love for those young people whom we minister to that I'm sure urges you on and makes you as crazy generous as you've already been. So you may be aware already that we'll be here on Friday evening. We've got a little social that's organized to try and do a little bit of heavy lifting on the fundraising side, right? We would love to be able to establish a substantial endowment so that we're not constantly trying to worry from year to year, okay, well, are we going to be able to have the retreats program this year or not? Are we going to be able to have, can we pay the campus minister this year? Can we not, right? So it would be great if we, to have a fund set up, an endowment that could provide some substantial and ongoing support for the sustainable mission of Catholic Gators. So that's part of what I'm doing down here this week. Can I invite people? Can I okay? So it's going to be happening in your house. So you might as well come back by, right? Join us for the reception on Friday, but if you can't, I understand if you didn't know about it or if you have other things that are going on. I understand. But you could come up to me after this if you really felt compelled. If that crazy love for that's in your heart just compels you to write out a check. Well, I'll be right over there. Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you for spending with us here. There is a lot of synergies that we can work out. Talking about Friday, you can invite anybody you want. We're more than happy to have them here. However, the wealth go to you. Their time come here with us. It's a little bit of a synergy.
Sure. Perfect.
I hope that you don't misinterpret my question, but there is a little bit of concern, perhaps, because at least on my end, we have had great individuals, great ACO members going to Gainesville, talking about like Portela, Marrara, and all that. And I'd like to hear from you, how do you feel when somebody, because neither one of them is under 50, how an age, any one of us here is hardly under 50, how we are perceived, because maybe that could be a handicap that some of us, because of it, may not be willing to go more or to join them. And I don't know. I wish you could help me trying to distill that thought, because again, I'm not just giving an example. I mean, I may look young, but I am not young. Sometimes I don't even know how to talk to my own son. And I'm afraid to say, I'm going to go with them to Gainesville. What do I say? Please.
So I'm also not under 50. So, yeah, right. No, honestly, I recognize the awkward. I like that. I want to acknowledge that. I don't want to quickly glide over that or dismiss that reality. As you said, sometimes I'm not sure how to communicate even with my own family members, right? Like my own children, right? Like that generational divide can be a real thing, right? Okay, but I guess what I want to challenge you to, brother, is courage. Okay, courage to move beyond the awkward, right? In the experience that I have seen of a lot of young adults, when they come out from the college and they've been on fire and they've really come alive in their faith, and they get into parishes, and then people, they feel like kind of stonewalled, right? Like, well, I've been here doing this ministry in this parish for the last 2 decades, and you're not going to come in here and take my place and all that kind of thing, right? And sometimes it's not only that, but there's a kind of thought or an expectation. Well, why don't they come over here and talk to me? Okay, why are the young not coming over and taking the initiative to strike up conversations, to have relationships with people who are in an older generation? And I want to say, okay, look, somebody's got to cross that gulf, right? Okay, we could sit back as the older people expecting it of them, or we can man up and we can go and be the ones who extend it out to them. Like, take the risk on our part, have the courage to initiate it. I guess this is rooted in my years of teaching experience. I live for the eye roll. Okay. Like, I live for that. Yes, look at that. Your eyes went so far back in your head. That was amazing, right? Just one little anecdote. So I'm now running a family evangelization program in my parish. So we replaced the typical religious education for children with a family evangelization program. So I said, you're not just, we are not accepting unaccompanied minors here into these classes. Like if your kids are here for religious education, you will be on property with them. I am not accepting responsibility for you to just drop off your children, go off and have a cup of coffee, and then come back an hour later, take them and not go to Mass. And it's not happening, right? Okay, so I'm like, so we're going to do something together. We are going to, like, the lesson is going to be all of us together, parents, children, in the same room. And then we will break out. The children will go and process it at their level, and I will sit with the parents and we'll process it at your level. Okay, so I've got parents and children around the table. I'm saying, okay, everybody introduce yourselves. We go around the table, and we get to the daughter of the parents who are there, a 13-year-old girl, and I'm like, the question posed to her is, what is your name? Is the answer. like the response was just like, and I'm like, you don't know. You just don't know that that's like the prey to my tiger. I am going to come, I am going to get past that with you, and little by little, I just keep talking to her. I keep engaging with her, and whether she wants to be there or not, she's there. I'm there. We're gonna build some kind of relationship in this. Okay, long answer to your question, but yeah. No.
Father, your story is actually a good segue to my question. I belong to a parish, not your namesake parish. I belong to a parish that also serves a university. So that motivates my question. And your story was a good segue, because my question is, what percentage of the faithful are the students, who come to Mass on Sundays? What percentage are students, and what percentage is the community at large?
So the biggest event that we have, right, is Sunday Mass. And that's true in any parish anywhere. The one time that you're going to see the most people, I presented this to my liturgical ministers the other day. I was like, liturgy is the most effective locus of evangelization that we have, because nothing else we're going to do. Like, you could plan the best event, you could publicize it to the hilt, you could invite personally everybody you know, and you'll get a fraction of the people who show up for Ash Wednesday, who just come for Mass just to get their ashes, right? Okay, so that's, if we just said, well, look at Sunday Mass attendance, where, this is the most attended event that we have in the parish, and that's where I gave you that figure of about 70% of my parishioners, the people who come to Mass at my church on a given Sunday, about 70% of them are college age.
Is that a single Mass? Or?
That's all of the Masses. Yeah. The one exception, I would say if we just averaged out over all of them, that's still probably close. Well, I have 6 Masses on a Sunday, or on a weekend, right? Yeah. One of them is in Spanish, and that's the most multi-generational, right? Because we've got a lot of families that just move into the area, they get jobs, they're working, typical jobs, whether it's construction or, some agricultural work, but, a lot of construction. And those folks come and go, but there we've got everything from children to great-grandparents. So that's a little bit more mixed in its age. The college students, not a lot of them go to the Mass in Spanish. Whether it's because they're not super comfortable in Spanish. I mean, this reality is that, over the generations, I don't speak a word of Polish, My grandparents spoke Polish when they didn't want me to understand what they were saying. Okay, so a lot of our Latino students learned Spanish the way I learned Spanish. They learned it as a school subject. So yeah, they're not as well represented at that 1:30 Mass, but at the other Masses, yeah, I'd say about 70%.
I just wanted to address, Cesar, your question about the age. It is certainly a factor that we are very aware of, that those of us who are going up there to present and to collaborate with the students, none of us are under 50. Now we're not even under 70. Well, I'm talking about the guys that have gone up there. Anyway, it's difficult. We really are trying to reach out to our younger membership, younger members to come up, but we realize it's difficult because you have to take out 2 days of work and vacation they have to take to go up there. So it's difficult for the younger crowd to be able to go and help us. The other thing that really encourages us, those of us over 50, is that Joseph West, the campus minister, we've addressed that issue with him. And he says, it's really good for our young people to see you older guys who are living out your faith. You've been professionals, you've carried out your lives, marriages for a long time, etc. And it's very encouraging for these young people to see guys like yourselves that are still carrying out their faith. So you could kind of say that's kind of a flip side of the importance of the older folks to be there. So that has, I know, Jerry, I think you share that as well, when Joseph has mentioned that to us.
In fact, I've had the reverse experience.
Here.
Speaking for myself in the times that I've gone up there, what I have found is that, one, the kids that we have been fortunate enough to collaborate with keep us young. And second, I've experienced their love. It's a reciprocal thing I have found, that they really, at least that's what they've expressed to me, is that they really appreciate the fact that we go up there, when we do. And they really, the level of participation and collaboration that we have is really encouraging. I would not say for 1 second, at least for me, I have no fear of going up there at all. And it's been so spiritually rewarding that I would encourage anybody who has any interest whatsoever to go up and see for yourself, because I've gotten back a lot more than what I've given. And as long as I'm able, and as long as they'll have me, I'll continue going up. And I look forward to going up. If I could go up every week, I would go up every week.
So what do you talk to them?
I'm sorry?
What is it what do you talk to them? What is the interaction with the younger people?
We talk to them about what we've been asked to speak to them about, which is formation in Ignatian spirituality. And we have an agenda. We have a series of topics that will cover the whole year. And but it's not like a lecture, where I go and talk to them about, principle and foundation or something. It ends up being a two-way thing. It's a dialogue. I do my best to make sure that I don't come off as a teacher in the sense that I'm going to give a lecture for 45 minutes. I ask a lot of questions. And I've learned in my teaching experience that the kids want to know the why of everything. I mean, if I read to them principle and foundation word for word, great. I think it's one of the best pieces of, that has been written that's extremely practical. But why is it that way? And we really get into the why of everything, because I think one of the deficiencies in our Catholic education at the high school and junior high level, here at Belen or anywhere else, is that we teach from a book and we don't do enough to answer the kids' questions. We don't find out where they're at. So before I even say anything, I want to know where they're at. And you would be amazed where these kids are at in Gainesville, in their spiritual formation. Yeah. It's really an amazing group, and the Focus missionaries and Joseph and Father, they do an incredible job. So that's made her job a lot easier, right, in going up, and like I said before, extremely rewarding.
Thanks. That's beautiful. Yeah, like what a beautiful testimony. I would add one other thing. There is a certain universal language. I learned it from my dog. Food is love.
We love you tonight.
Yes, I have been loved. Yes.
Father David, thank you for spending time with us. For those of us here that don't know, could you tell them how you get around the campus? I got a taste of it while I was there. Second question, you mentioned that you do a lot of weddings for students. Do you have, what's the percentage, or do you have a group of couples that actually stay in town? And do you provide anything for those young couples? Like any type of mentorship or groups? I don't know. Sure. Marriage past the wedding.
Yeah. Okay. So should I start with the? Okay. So a few years back, one of our alumni asked me, "Well, Father David, what's your priority? I'm trying to, I'd like to be able to support what's important to you." And at the time, I said, "Well, we really want to get out on campus more. We want to be more present out there. So yeah, like my priority for this year is like not to just stay inside the student center, but to get out onto campus." Well, this guy was an engineer, and he has a sort of literal mind about things. So he decided that when I said I wanted to get out onto campus, he would invest in modes of transportation that I could take out onto the campus of the University of Florida, right? So he bought us a fleet of Segways, okay? We have 5 of these little Segway things, right? That we can ride out onto campus, and you don't need to park them anywhere, and you can ride them on sidewalks and all that kind of thing. So literally, yes, he gave us a way to get out onto campus more. And so when we do Mass on the grass there at the Plaza of the Americas on campus, very often I will come zipping up before Mass starts on my Segway. But the best story was one of our sisters, one of our Mercedarian sisters, who was, she and the seminarian who was on pastoral year at the time, they were riding down the sidewalk of University Avenue. Now, these particular Segways don't have handles. You steer them with a little knee bar, okay? So the handles don't actually do anything. They're just there to make you feel more secure, right? But so she's wearing a habit, which means that like the habit goes down to here, right? And the Segway is like up, underneath the habit. So she's just gliding down the street, right? Someone driving by in a car on University Avenue does a little short video clip of this gliding nun on the Segway and posts it, and the caption is, "Keep Gainesville weird." Okay, so from the absurd to the sublime, right? Okay, so yes, some couples do decide that they want to stay in Gainesville. Some of my staff, in fact, most of my staff were at one point Catholic Gators. They're still Catholic Gators, but they were undergrad students, graduate students there. They found their spouse, they settled down, they got married. Some of them, are still there. We started doing two things to provide support for our married couples. The first was that from the experience I had of people so here's what happens typically in marriage prep. A couple decides that they're going to get married. There's an engagement. They pick the date, they talk to the caterer, they rent the venue, then they go to the church and talk to the priest. Okay? This is very typical in parishes, right? Okay. Those folks have already decided that they're getting married. Now they go to meet with the priest to do marriage prep. Like, now they take a little compatibility inventory. Well, what exactly am I going to say to them at that point, after they've already decided we're getting married, right? And because engagements have become more and more public events, like there's the videographer and it's Facebook and it's social media and it's everything, right? So people, once they've gotten engaged, once they're on that train, it's really hard to say, well, I'm not sure that this was a really good idea, right? Okay. So we've started pre-engagement marriage prep with our students. So as they're dating, if they've been dating seriously for a period of time, they know now that this is a thing, right? That we will do this. That I will meet with them and talk with them about that discernment process prior to their engagement. Okay, so that's just something that has grown out of my experience of doing ministry with young married couples. Okay. The second thing then is that we have our Family First Friday event, and this kind of grew out of our young adults group. That's post undergrad, but graduate students, young professionals, and then young families. We decided, well, let's see what we can do, for them. So on First Friday, we have the Family First Friday. There's potluck dinner. We expose the Blessed Sacrament in our chapel there in our student center. The priest stays, hangs out with them, offers confessions. We provide childcare. So it's all self-contained, one building, our student center building. The kids are over here, they're playing, they're doing their thing, they've got supervision. The parents are able to just kind of relax. There's a lot of shared parenting, like every now and again a child comes crying out of the room where the other kids are and runs to the nearest parent, and somebody picks them up, comforts them, sends them back in there. Maybe it's their parent, maybe it's another, So the parents can sit and talk and eat and get away and pray in front of the Blessed Sacrament, go have their confession heard, and then at a certain point, as the evening is kind of drawing to a close, we say, okay, time to get a blessing from Jesus. And so the parents go get their kids, and we all go over into the chapel, and I do the benediction. And one of the most heartwarming things recently in my priesthood has been to be in there, in the chapel for benediction, and hearing the voices of of parents and children all together singing that Tantum Ergo, right? So we're there, and the priest is kneeling, he's incensing the Blessed Sacrament, and from behind me I can hear Tantum Ergo Sacramentum, right? That. that we are impressing that memory on the minds of children so young. And we're sensory beings, right? Right? So there's something about, the expositions, exposition particularly. The smell and the sound and the visual and the being together. I just think, what a beautiful memory to impress on the minds of these children, that can just stick with them, right? And I can tell you that the kids, the parents tell me that their kids say to them, "It's 3 weeks till I get to go play with my church friends," right? Okay, like they're waiting, and they don't want to miss those first Fridays where they get to, they spend the time, they're playing with the other kids, they're running around, they're doing that stuff, but it all finishes with that face-to-face encounter with Jesus. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.